Okay. All right, everybody. Hi, everybody. It's Karen Holly. I am back for Menopause Life, and I am thrilled. I am so excited for you guys to meet our guest speaker today. She is the founder of the Center for Sexual Health and Rehabilitation, and her name is Dr. Heather Howard. Hi, Heather.
Hi, thanks for having me,
Oh,
Karen.
oh my gosh, of course. So you guys, a little bit on Heather. She and I met earlier. It might have even been last year, but it might have been earlier this year. She was going to speak on the women's health panel on sexual health in April. And then because of COVID, it got postponed to October, and you all know the rest of the story. There's no events happening. So I'm thrilled to have Heather back. She is not only the founder of the Sexual Health and Rehabilitation Center that I mentioned, but she's also was and is a co-chair at ISHWISH, which stands for the International Society for Study of Women's Sexual Health. She also is an adjunct professor at CIIS for the sexual therapy certification process. She's worked at Stanford Clinic in the OBGYN area doing clinical skills a while back. She's a graduate of UC Berkeley, also New York University Stern School of Business, and then she got her PhD and her MPH at the Institute. Heather, help me out here.
Institute for Advanced Study of Human Sexuality.
Thank you.
Pretty specific. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, who better to have on the show today, you all, to talk more about sexual health than a board certified sexologist? So, what
Yes.
we're going to do is we're going to start with Heather telling us about what is sexology. And then we'll move into a really exciting topic on ergoerotics, something that she invented and that is available for us. So, without
Excellent.
further ado, Heather, I would love for you to tell us what's a sexologist?
Well, first of all, thank you for such a wonderful introduction. It's so nice to meet you and to be here for all of your listeners. So a sexologist is someone who is concerned with what people do sexually and how they feel about what they do. And so in my case, I studied human sexuality, and we look at sexuality from a really broad perspective, from a behavioral, psychological, social, anthropological, biological, historic, artistic perspective. It's very, very broad. And it's an interdisciplinary field. So we as individuals are thinking from many, many perspectives.
I remember when we spoke, you said, yeah, a typical client for you might be you integrating with several primary care and others. Do you want to talk a little bit more about an example of how you integrate?
That's right. That's right. So as opposed to someone who studied one discipline like psychology and looked at that in depth, I'm a sex specialist, and I'm going to be looking across perspectives and often considering what the different modalities might be that could help my clients. So, for instance, someone might come to me and let me know that they're having some problems, let's say with pain. So I can work with them with the psychosocial aspects, but I might need to refer them and really help them build their team, or they may be referred to me by another team member. But really having a full multidisciplinary team, sometimes they would be needing to work, let's say if it's pelvic pain, with a gynecologist, perhaps a physical therapist, maybe a urologist, someone who does pain medicine. And we may look at bringing in the right team. A lot of my clients are also seeing psychologists. Most of them are, in fact. And I'm coming in as that specialist. And yet, because sexuality is affected by and affects all of those other areas of a person's life, it's really important to have the team integrate. And so much of my work is helping people to reintegrate. So it's interesting, we live in our Western medical model, we tend to look at things from either the biological or the psychological perspective, and people are often treated by specialists just for their parts, or one part at a time. And so what's often happening is, especially if someone's having a health condition, which a lot of my clients are having health conditions, which then impacts their sexuality, and their sexuality affects their health and their relationships. So when someone's having challenges, it's really important then to reintegrate. So much of them are they're being treated as the sum of their parts, but sexuality is integral. And so often having an integrated team also models that integration that's then happening within the person too, when we try to help them reintegrate their pelvis into their body concept, reintegrate pleasure into their pain management process. So that's a lot of what I do, is really help with the integration with the individual and also with their team.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, I think as more and more doctors and as the medical community changes, I think integrative or interdisciplinary health is so important, especially for women, because as we age, there's so many different things that happen naturally. And our OBs may not know everything, right? And so you need that pelvic floor specialist or the sexologist or the urinologist or whatever, and the endocrinologist, whatever you're going to need. But it's best if they work as a team. So I love that your field actually, in many ways, requires that.
It does, and in fact, you had mentioned ISWISH before. There's a reason I've dedicated so much of my time and love to this organization, and it's because it is interdisciplinary. And even though I'm not going to be able to write prescriptions and I'm not being able to make certain diagnoses, that's out of my scope. I need to know what my colleagues can do for my clients. So, when someone comes to me, I can give them the picture of, these are the types of things that might be available to you. Let's help you. Let's figure out what feels best for you or appropriate for you so that you're informed and you can make informed decisions. And so, that way, and when someone says, well, why should I see a physician? It's important for me to understand that so I can explain where they fit in the team. So I need to know what kinds of medications might help, or I need to know what kinds of testing might be available. Or, for instance, people who have, let's say, pain on the tip of a penis may not understand why their muscles would be relevant here, but it's the tip of my penis. And well, yes, but the muscles and the nerves affect what you're feeling at the tip of your penis. So, or the clitoris, the glands of the clitoris.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm glad you're going into a couple details. So just for the audience, since sexology is so new, I don't even know how long has that kind of study been around? Is it something in the last couple decades, or?
No, actually, it's been around since the late 1800s.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and the name sexology was actually a German name that started back in Europe, and the first journals for sexology started in the late 1800s. But what we've seen throughout history is that different disciplines have co-opted the field of sexuality, and so sometimes the field of sort of medical studies really ruled the field, and everything was seen from a biological perspective. Then you have, at times you then had the fields of psychology really trying to own or dominate the field. And so they were viewing most sexological issues as psychological. But really, this field, looking at sexuality from many, many lenses, has been around since the late 1800s.
Oh, that's fascinating. Thank you. Thank you for that. I didn't realize that. Yeah, I was just trying to think, because I've had experience with pelvic health rehabilitation, and it was profound for me after my ovarian cancer. And I know that pelvic health is now coming into its age, right? It has been undervalued in our society for a long time, not as much in Europe. Europeans and Asians are much better at helping women right after childbirth, for example. But it's interesting. So you mentioned like the penile, I don't even know if it's called penile pain. Penile pain, if someone's having pain in, whether it's in their vagina or on the external labia or clitoris, or would it
the vestibule? The vestibule is a common place. What's that?
Would nipple pain also bring people to you, or is it more in the genital areas?
Well, no, sure. So I work with people with all sorts of health conditions. Most of my practice, although I work with people with all sorts of sexual concerns, and performance anxiety, and wondering if we're normal, and desire differences, and that can happen for anyone. But but a lot of people refer people to me who have chronic health conditions or who have had some sort of health challenge or health crisis where they need to figure out how to adjust with their new bodies or how to adjust to a new normal. So that's also a big part of what I do. But it's not limited to the pelvis. It's just that my concentration, my dissertation research looked at the relationship between pelvic pain and sexuality. And I myself have a pelvic pain condition, which is what, really helped me find my way into this field. But, certainly by studying other people, my dissertation looked at other people, not just me. It's really important from a scientific perspective to not just presume that what my experiences will be like other people's. And so, and we also know in sexuality studies, most people think that other people's sexuality looks like theirs. And the fact is it's very broad, and very varied. And so it's important, if we're going to be speaking with any level of expertise or competence, to understand the variety of normal and not just presume, even though I have a condition, that everyone's like me.
It's so great that you even say that, right? Because I know even with women that I speak with regularly, right, there are some, to your point, there's some assumptions that, these 5 positions are what we all do, and we feel the same way in those positions. And the reality is I mean, every woman is so different, but every man is so different. And then you put the two together, or woman, man, whatever the
every person, exactly. Every person.
Together, even if it's self versus together, the together creates a whole new dynamic in terms of pain and or pleasure. So that's kind of a perfect lead in to what you invented, Heather, which is ergoerotics. And I remember when I was speaking with you, I was like, of course there's ergonomics for sex. Like, why wouldn't there be? We have ergonomic keyboards, we have ergonomic chairs. And as you know, I was in severe back pain this whole last week and barely could walk. And I knew our interview was coming up, and I was like, this is so perfect. If I knew more about ergoerotics, maybe I could self-pleasure, or maybe I could actually have sex. But actually my back was so bad, I don't think I could have. But anyway, I think it's a perfect time for you to talk about what is ergoerotics. How did it come about? What does it mean? How do people use it?
Sure, of course. Well, I think it's when you mentioned that ergonomics exists for everything else, when we think about sexual activity, we have the chance of having major repetitive stress, right? So, if you're using your keyboard in the same position all day or for a long period of time, you can have repetitive stress, which is why you have to think about your ergonomics or adjusting. Ergonomics is the adjustment of the environment and the activity to fit the needs of the person involved. We need the same thing with sex. And with sexual activity, if productivity is pleasure and enjoyment and connection, then we want to make sure that we're having comfortable, sustainable pleasure. So you asked a bit about how this came about, I think. I was actually, so it's a process I've been working on for a long time. When I was putting together a course for Herman and Wallace, which is a pelvic rehabilitation institute. This course was for pelvic health physical therapists. I was wanting to teach this section, and I was looking for materials. And actually, Herman and Wallace has a really good handout showing, like drawings of positions. But I really felt like it was important to be able to see movement as it's happening, and to be able to also consider getting in and out of positions. Often when people have health concerns, it's not just the position that they're in for some period of time, but how do they actually get into and out of it? And so I thought, how am I going to teach this section? And it really became clear that I needed some moving video or something to really demonstrate what I was talking about. And so thankfully, the physical therapists who were at the course were very supportive and excited. So I went on I had created some preliminary videos to demonstrate the process. And so they said, oh, you must put these out there. So it's been a really fun project now it's been maybe 9 years that I've been working on that project. And I mean, so ergoerotics is a process of it's really just like the word ergonomics. This is erotic ergonomics, and it's really the application of the science of ergonomics to sexuality. But in terms of what that looks like in practice, I have some videos that are available for particular health problems. I wanted to address some of the most common health problems. Of course, back pain is one of them. So my very first, my second video was on back pain. The first video that came out was on hip and knee pain and surgery. The one for back pain is on back pain and surgery as well. And then the third video that came out was on pelvic pain. And so, those are videos that demonstrate the process for particular health conditions. And it really shows the adjustments that can be made to the environment, as well as the activity, which could be the position, as well as the actual stimulation method that's being done, the location on the body that's being stimulated. These particular videos show, demonstrate varieties of penetrative sex positions, because those can be the most challenging. They often involve movement of the hips, which for someone with back pain, hip problems, or pelvic pain, those can be most challenging. So I started with those videos focusing on penetrative sex. I'm going to need to pause for one moment. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, we're back from our moment of COVID noise there. Okay, don't worry.
Yes.
I had one of my interviews, I had a neighbor blowing leaves, so zero worries. So you were just telling Heather about how your first, second, and third videos on back pain, hip pain, health pain, and or surgeries, and penetrative sex, and how, because that typically is harder on those three areas of pain in terms of adjustment. So go ahead and continue on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mentioned I focus on penetrative sex, but I do think it's very important to point out that we don't have any, as a sexologist, I don't have any value judgment on the type of activity someone does. So, penetrative sex is something that people talk about a lot, and yet there's so much more of a variety of what people may do for pleasure and satisfaction. The largest sex organs are the brain and the skin. And so, stimulating the brain and the skin are most important, even though a lot of time is often dedicated to genitals when people think about sex. I happen to be talking about penetrative sex in some of the videos, but I think it's really important to state that. And actually there are some other ergoerotics materials as well that I'll talk about later that demonstrate manual as well as oral sex positions and ergonomic adjustments, which I think is very important. And often, I think it's worth talking about this a little bit, because when we're working with clients, whatever educational materials we're using are educating people about what normal is. And so if the only materials they're seeing talk about penetrative sex positions, then the message that we're giving somehow is that this is what sex is, or this is what's valued. Whereas that's often what people's questions are related to for me, but that is not what I want people to hear as a message, that's all that matters, that's all that has value in sex.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so glad that because I think you're right. Even when I initially thought of ergoerotics, I was thinking, couples in their 60s or 70s, or like you said, people that have, like me, had a back pain injury, where I was thinking penetrative sex. I was thinking self-pleasure too, but the mind does always go to penetrative sex. And I think, especially with ergoerotics, I can think of oral sex being the variety of oral sex positions that won't hurt hips or backs or knees, just for sheer pleasure. So I think that that's fantastic that you're coming out with videos on that, because I know of people who have gotten strained necks from
that's right.
sex. So
that's right. Those aren't in the pipeline yet, those videos, but they are part of the library that's available for providers when they're working with patients. So yeah, there's a library that's out right now. It's not yet available for patients to use or for lay people to use in their home life. Eventually, my plan, if it comes, if I can make that happen, I'm only one person, so everything just takes time. But in the pipeline is actually a book that so that someone can have a reference guide when they're with their partners to flip through and see different positions. And then there will be a scan code to take them in to see the moving video that accompanies it if they really need to see more detail about how it works. And I want to get back to the idea of moving video too, because we tend to think of, when we look at pictures of sexual positions, we tend to imagine only one way of doing the movement. And maybe I'll show you, if we have some time a little later, I'll show you a demonstration of like different movement strategies, which someone may not have thought of originally when they think of a position. And I think that's super important because this is why we have to think about not only ergonomics is not just adjusting the environment. And you ask pillows, yes, cushions, pillows, sex furniture. We want to think about what makes your environment feel like a playground. So what's your playground furniture? And also when we think of the environment, we think of having our devices or our lubricant or our condoms or whatever it is we're going to use, our anything that's a pleasure toy, gloves, whatever we want to have it within arm's reach, because if we have to go a long way to get it, we may not actually use it. And so, or the greatest thing is people travel without their favorite toys, so that, often people have better sex on vacation and then they forget to bring their favorite toys or all the things that make sex delicious. And so, the idea is really having what we need in our environment close by so that we can use it without having to break up the flow. Certainly, one of the things we think about with ergonomics as well is flow. Lots of people may have to pause what they're doing either because they can't sustain energy very long. And so we want to think about what is going to put the fewest demands on someone so that they can have more sustained activity. In ergonomics, we may think about, I have to get up and use the restroom often, or I have to deal with my insulin pump or my colostomy pouch. How do I deal with my medical equipment or the breaks that may take place in the flow, or to stop and do an injection for an erection, or to take a pill, and how do I time the pill, or for desire, for erection. So, these are all things that we consider when we think about ergonomics. It's the flow of activity, it's the environment, it's the position, it's the type of stimulation we're doing, and then the movement strategy. So it's all of these things.
Okay, and I know at the end, and you're going to give me the links to your educational videos that are available. We can put it in the Instagram,
sure,
in the caption as well, just that link. Was there something that you did want to show today? Is that what you're saying?
I can actually show you. I was thinking I would demonstrate for you a different movement strategy. Because
do it.
Often, for instance, let me think of in the pelvic pain video, and this comes up a lot in my clinical practice around pelvic pain. People are often afraid of being hurt. They've had a pain condition. And so one of the most important things to integrate sexual activities for someone who has pain to feel like they're more in control, that they could stop the movement at any time, and perhaps they can even control the movement. And so I'm often going to help people find positions that put them more in control. So I was thinking I would just share my screen. Oh, you have to enable my participant screen sharing here.
Oops.
If you're able to.
Let me. I wasn't thinking about that. Hold on.
And if that's too challenging, we can just talk about it.
Yeah, hold on. I should be able to make you a
host.
There we go. There you go. Okay.
Beautiful. It worked. Thank you.
You are welcome. Thanks.
I'm now a co-host. Love being a co-host. Okay. So I wanted to show you, let me just show you this particular example. So a lot of my clients may be afraid, let's say, of facing away. So here are some facing away examples. And so what I wanted to demonstrate is often someone thinks of, let's say it's the person who's the insertee, or who's in front in this position, who will be, or perhaps who has a vulva. And so they may be thinking that they're going to be the passive participant in this. And yet, let me see, I'm hoping that I'm showing the right video. I should have queued this up before we spoke. But I just want to show, so in this case, actually she's controlling the movement.
Mhm.
So these are some, often we don't think outside of what we may be doing, but by being able to modify positions, her partner is more static, the partner with the penis in this case, and is static, and she's able to control the movement for her own comfort.
I love the use of the bolster. Like we think of those bolsters for legs and feet and like in yoga to
Totally.
laying down positions, but I love that it props her up so there's less pressure.
Absolutely. And in this case, she also, there was an option for her to roll the bolster too. So again, yes, it's thinking you may already have a lot of these props around your home, but this is one example of how we think of movement strategy too. It's not simply the static position, because we might have looked at the picture and thought, well, he's going to be doing the movement. But in fact, a lot of people would be able to handle a position that they've thought of as a fearful in the past, because they can have more control.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just, since we're talking about movement strategies, we mentioned oral sex before. Let's, I wanted to see if I can show you, like here's an oral sex example. Let me see, here's, okay, let me see. I should have queued up the particular movement strategies prior to this, but let's just see what we find. And the great thing about this, Karen, is, so I developed this because I needed it with my clients, and it has been game changing for me. The interesting thing that I didn't anticipate when I created this was how much of an interactive experience it was going to be. But what it does is it helps the client. My job, right, is to graduate clients. It's to bring them to a place where they're really clear about their own expertise, and they feel empowered to manage their own sex lives. And then they go forth and prosper, and then know where to find the information they need or how to continue their conversations with their partners. So so this interactive process of looking, oops, I don't even know what just happened. Here we go. This interactive process of going through this with clients and letting them.
Yeah, you got it.
So
well done.
So look, in this case, she's actually using her body to move. So we mentioned those muscles of the neck that can get strained from oral sex. So here she's either using her arm to move her partner, or she's doing a whole body roll.
Right.
So, and she's using those larger muscles of her body. And one of the main principles of ergoerotics is to use the largest muscles possible for the job. I'll stop sharing for a moment. So we really want to think about, if we're having small muscles that are getting strained, how do we use larger muscles of the body? So this processing, I worked with physical therapists to develop it, and we incorporated movement strategies from Feldenkrais and from some other movement philosophies to try and find ways to reduce the strain on people's small muscles.
Yeah, I love hearing about the incorporation of Feldenkrais, because that's such a great modality as well. But just reminding people, right? And I'm so happy that you are speaking to everyone, because I think it's why I do Menopause Life, right? Or the Women's Health Panel, which after COVID I turned into Menopause Life. But is because I still want 20-somethings and 30-somethings to understand that they have so much at that younger age to empower themselves to have a healthier later life. And it's exactly the same with this. Like, if you're going to be having crazy sex, which I hope everyone does for as long as they can, you might as well be doing it in a way that isn't going to tweak a muscle, or that you can get in a position that you can sustain for longer and have more fun. So I just love that it really can be applied to any age. Originally, when we were speaking, I was thinking about how motivational and incredible it is to see people as they age and support them in their age. Because I think a lot of people in their 70s think that they can't really have sex, and I think that they can. And so I was really excited about that aging, the growth of this.
Yeah.
But now that I saw that last video, I think it would be healthy for any age, just to use your body in a more to use your body in a way that's optimal with the muscle structure that we have.
Well, right. And people might find that they enjoy certain activities that they didn't think they enjoyed before if they can do it more comfortably. I mean, often we're not conscious about the reasons that we're avoiding something, but it may just be because we're not comfortable, either emotionally or physically. but being able to take a step back and think about what would make me comfortable, which is, the fun thing about my job is usually people have all of the information within them. I mean, certainly I teach them things too, but a lot of times it's really, in my work, it's helping people find the inner wisdom and trust it. And
Right.
so being able to have tools to facilitate those conversations, to be able to help people think about, what is most comfortable for them, what do they really enjoy, so that they are experts and they can recognize their expertise is pretty exciting. And I was going to we mentioned cushions, so I was just going to take you back in and show you some of the cushion options too.
Yeah, and you guys, while Heather's showing you so the website, isn't it ergoerotics.com?
Right, it's spelled ergoerotics.com. And let's see if I can bring up you can see it at the top here, ergoerotics.com. And I was going to show you, so for instance, there are different cushions which can either raise the upper body, that can raise the lower body. We may think about like a platform, a cushion, which can change the height of a bed or put under someone's knees for kneeling positions, or to be able to have sex on the floor or wherever it works in your home. Just bed cushions between the knees may be really important for hip alignment. Here this couple is using two different ones. So, figuring out what's comfortable, and it's really a fun thing for me. One of the greatest things, accidents. I've been doing video chat for a long time, because even though I have a physical practice based in California, although during COVID I haven't been seeing anyone in person, I've been working over video chat for many years. And so I work with people all over the world.
Right.
And one of the happy accidents has been doing an ergoerotics video chat consultation with someone while they were in the room in which they usually practice their sexual activity. And, being able to see, often I can just see something in the room that a little tweak will change. For instance, if I recall a client who had a futon where they would pull that out for sex, but it was like a little offsides. And so the bottom was sloping down, and they were having the partner kind of one stand at the end, like the light spot. I can't remember, but what we realized was that was strange. But if they just went to the other side of the bed where the incline was going upward, it was totally comfortable. So rather than inclining downward on the one side of the futon, they inclined upward on the other side, and it was night and day. So it's one of those fun accidents that happens. And I mean, this is one of the reasons I enjoy working over video chat too.
Oh yeah, well, I could totally see it helping. Because you're going to see something different than your clients see it, because you do it for a living. So,
right.
Oh my gosh, Heather, go ahead. You're going to.
Oh no, and I was going to say the reason I created this process, I think I told you, or at least the video, the library, was for me. I can't remember 106 positions at all times. Being able to go through the positions with my clients, and then allow that to be a jumping off point for them to notice what might feel good for them, what might not work, why. Suddenly they're learning more about themselves and their partners at the same time. And it's an easy way also. Now it's available for other providers to use with their patients. So a physical therapist can do this with their clients as well. And the physical therapist being the expert in perhaps the ergonomics for that client, then they can apply it to sexuality. So
yeah. I'm just thrilled that we were able to make this happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, even though COVID foiled the in-person women's health panel, I definitely have hope that we will all meet in person again someday, to have another in-person forum, because I think people love in person on this topic. But I'm so grateful that you took the time to meet with us today, and I'm super excited to air the interview. And again, it's ergoerotics.com, and you guys all put Heather's contact social media information in the post.
That's right. That's right. And my clinical website is heatherhoward.com. Very easy to remember.
Oh, perfect.
Um,
Perfect.
yes.
I'll put all the
Yeah.
links, you guys, in the caption. But I'm just so grateful, and I can't wait to have you back again. And really, I'd love, once I'm also just me and my social media helper Trinity, who I adore.
Yes.
But it's a lot to put on a live video, so I don't know if I'll be doing that in the near future, but I will for sure have you back again, Heather. I'm super
Oh,
excited.
well, this was really fun. And I hope that your back continues to improve.
You too.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're feeling up to it, we'll talk about some ways that I can then support you with your back pain.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll see you soon.
Okay. Thanks.